What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel and welcome to Full Tilt Bike Co. We are a specialty BMX race shop based out of Minnesota, and we do a whole bunch of videos just like this one.
From product reviews, on-track testing, and even some custom builds, we do it all. So make sure you hit that subscribe button and join the community.
Now on to the main topic of today's video, which is the Box X6 carbon fork. This is a very special fork and realistically the first of its kind. This is probably the first time that we've seen a titanium steer tube featured on a tapered carbon race fork. Titanium's been used in some of the other cycling industries, but it seems like Box is really leading the charge of incorporating more and more titanium hardware into BMX racing. Before we get into nitty-gritty specs or details or anything like that, I kind of just want to get, what are your first impressions? Like, this is your first time seeing the fork, same thing with me. We've got it in hand. What are your thoughts from just looks alone?
Looks alone, definitely cleaned it up a lot with the X6. Obviously, it's a higher tiered fork. It's one level up, so it's going to give you a better look, aesthetics, and appeal. Just seeing it for the first time, I think that they knocked it out of the park with this one. And if we get into the features, I'm sure you guys are gonna love the actual performance and kind of race specs that come along with the new X6 fork.
Yeah, it's a really good looking package, and it definitely looks like the beefed up older brother of the X5. And I think that's exactly what Box was going for here with this model.
So now let's get down into a little bit of the comparison between the new X6 and the old X5.
First and foremost, the steer tube.
The steer tube. Steer tube, it's titanium.
Yes, it is titanium.
Yes, that's.
Well, technically, when it comes down to it, titanium is lighter than steel. But it retains a lot of the same strength properties. It's the classic BMX racing formula, right? Let's retain strength while reducing weight. And that's the main reason for going with that titanium steer tube. Some people argue, well, the X5 features an aluminum steer tube. However, aluminum isn't quite as strong as a titanium. So this is getting beefed up in terms of stiffness and overall durability.
Yeah, I mean, anytime you involve titanium, the tensile strength gets brought up. The titanium steer tube and the widened shoulders of the top, I think, are really gonna pull this fork together, and it's gonna make it all of worth the price tag that they put on it. So,
and I think if you kind of look at the direction Box is heading, you see that they're beginning to build kind of like its own little ecosystem in a sense. You've got a lot of the oversized parts. You're seeing more and more titanium with the titanium bars, now this titanium fork, and it's kind of all of these pieces are supposed to integrate together. So this is just another step. If you're running an oversized stem and handlebar combo, main reason you're doing that is for front end stiffness. This is going to be another piece that can help add even more stiffness to that front end,
but while retaining the weight being lower.
Yeah, while without like.
There's a lot of the parts that they're now making that are all oversized is, the one thing that is not as beneficial about it is they're just heavier. I mean, at the end of the day, those oversized parts, they get heavy, they're bigger, they're better for a lot of different variations on the track, bigger rider, faster riders that want to have a different reaction with their bike. But a lot of those parts, they're just heavy. Absolutely. So I give huge kudos to the X6 for kind of paving that way to have all of the things that you want to get your bike to perform the best, but also highlighting the age-old problem, or I guess thing that everybody's chasing in BMX, is to have the lightest bike. So main thing that's going to stand out to me is the actual locking mechanism on it. X5 comes with a stem lock. They retained that same design and put it into the X6 fork. Personally, I think having that through bolt is a nice feature. Gives you much more adjustment on your stack height depending on what thickness of a stem you're running, as well as you don't run the risk of breaking the top cap or pulling the threads out of the fork. You usually don't have to worry about anything letting go with a Box.
And you can get a new stem lock rather than having to get a brand new fork if your threads pull out. So that's one of the reasons why you like having that stem lock design. But
a little bit more convenient. And then really your other two comparisons are gonna be obviously look, which we covered already, got bigger shoulders, have that titanium steer tube for a better look. And then down to the performance, I really think that having that elevated shoulder design and being a little bit thicker in the actual fork legs is gonna give it a better, more rigid feel. Gonna give you a little bit more control over the bike. And overall, the actual performance of the fork, you're not just paying for a better look, you're actually getting something for that dollar. So,
and higher quality materials too as well. I mean, titanium's definitely not cheap, right?
No.
So this is a a really nice touch up and kind of almost completes the line in a sense. You know, the X5 is still very high performance, still really good fork. This is like the Ferrari of the lineup, really. Right. So that's where you're getting that extra stuff, but a lot of the same performance that you would get before, just step up. Okay, but now that we've really laid the groundwork and kind of highlighted the key differences between the X6 and the X5, I think there's still one big question that remains, and that's pretty much why. Why would Box take the time to develop such a high-end race fork? So from the words of Box themselves, first and foremost, it's going to be enhanced power delivery. By having that titanium steer tube, it just, again, helps the fork be stiffer. It's just going to be more responsive and be able to resist a lot of the twisting and pulling that happens during sprinting or anything like that, right? Along with that, better control. Again, by having that front end stiffer, you're going to get better control. You're not going to be dealing with that flex and lag that can happen with cheaper components for the most part. A lot of this stuff is minimal, but if you're someone who's riding your bike 4 to 5 times a week, you will notice those small changes. Next is going to be basically having a more robust build, or in other words, an armored build. Basically, bigger fork legs, tapered steer tube, titanium steer tube, all things that again make this stiffer, stronger, and in other words, faster. And finally, more advanced materials. We've talked about it this whole time. Pretty much the main key point of this fork is gonna be that titanium steer tube. That's gonna be one of the biggest differences between these two models and what's gonna take you to that higher step. So you've got some time to ride the track and get out there and actually test this firsthand. Was there anything significant that you noticed out there on the track while you were riding?
Yeah, I mean, to highlight on that responsiveness, leaving the gate, coming out of the hill, not getting as much movement toward the back, you're able to continue going forward, helps a little bit more with your sprint, and overall gives you a better feel as you go down the hill. Same thing with the transitions in between the jumps, going into the corners. You don't have that giveaway effect as you go into the corners, so that obviously takes energy away from you and sometimes decreases your speed. So
almost like a carbon frame, like switching from an aluminum to a carbon frame, like it was a little bit stiffer. You know, not night and day, but.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of hard to tell you exactly what you felt out of a fork, but you know, if I had to describe the feeling, it would be being able to hold speed a little bit better without having to try. So this is obviously, like you said, a flagship product, and usually on those are going to be developed to enhance the performance without having to enhance the rider. And it's, you know,
free speed.
You're buying speed. So
and let's also be realistic too. You know, we are zooming in really far with a microscope here. You know, at the end of the day, if you were to ride both of these forks, they're both going to do a great job. A lot of the things that you're talking about from what I'm hearing are kind of smaller, subtle things. So it's definitely there, but we don't want to be like, this is, you absolutely have to have that, you know?
Right.
But yeah, the X6.
The X6.
All right, so as always, we've done a lot of talking, but let's start to wrap this thing up and kind of give our final verdict. I think at the end of the day, the Box X6 is going to be a welcome addition into the BMX racing industry, and it's going to be changing things quite a bit. What I really appreciate about this project is Box's ambition to do something different. I think too often we see a lot of brands kind of take the leading technology and slap their logo on it and call it a day. Whether this is well adopted or not, it's cool to see a company trying to innovate the technology a little bit and do something different.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, just the thought of, you know, kind of what you can do with a fork is really getting to be a hard question to answer for a lot of the manufacturers out there these days. You can only change the design and contour of a tube ever so much. So kudos to Box for pushing it beyond the limits and, you know, coming up with what we would like to say is, you know, the future of how forks are going to be designed and produced.
So with the new X6 being available to consumers now, I think we're really interested to see the adoption rate of, you know, how many are we going to start seeing out here on tracks and stuff. While the $599 price tag might be a bit of a pain point to some people, we have to keep in mind that, again, like what we said, this is new technology, and anytime something new is being brought to the forefront, it's going to have a higher cost. And honestly, I think it's a pretty exciting time to like be a BMX gearhead, pretty much, like someone who's just really into products and stuff, because we're seeing so many new things come out and we're seeing a lot of advancements. You know, we were just talking earlier in the year about fixed dropout frames, and now here we have titanium steer tubes, and it seems like companies are really starting to push the envelope with BMX racing products, and it's a welcome addition to it.
With all that being said, now you guys know everything about the Box X6 fork. Make sure you check it out on fulltailbike.com, and make sure you like, comment, and subscribe on this video. Your thoughts of forks and where they're headed in the future. Thanks for tuning in. We'll catch you later.
Link in the description.